PlayStation has spent decades being one of the biggest names in gaming. They've had some of the best consoles, some of the most iconic games, and one of the most loyal fan bases in the entire industry. But lately, something feels different. It feels like Sony has slowly drifted away from what made people love PlayStation in the first place. Because instead of gamers getting excited for the future, we keep getting headlines that leave people frustrated. PlayStation 5 sales are down, Sony is moving closer toward a future without physical discs, and now PlayStation fans are organizing a boycott because they feel like the company isn't listening anymore. Sony is getting way too comfortable. They assume fans will always be there because they have built that loyalty. And as someone who has grew up with PlayStation, this is really disappointing to see. Some of my favorite memories exist because of this company. The PS2 and the PS4 eras were some of the best times in gaming, in my experience. Sony gave us experiences that felt creative, exciting, and unforgettable. But this PS5 era, it just feels like something's missing. This isn't me saying I hate PlayStation, it's actually quite the opposite. I love PlayStation, I'm just frustrated where they're going. Today, I want to talk about why I think PlayStation is starting to become anti-consumer a little bit, why declining PS5 sales shouldn't be surprising, and why Sony needs to be humbled before they lose the passion of the fans who built them. Sony is still one of the biggest companies in gaming. They still make incredible games, they have some of the most talented studios in the industry. The problem isn't that Sony suddenly forgot how to make games, the problem is that they don't feel as hungry as they used to. Look back on the PS2 era. PlayStation was willing to take risks. You had games like Jak and Daxter, Sly Cooper, Kingdom Hearts. There was so many different ideas. Not everything had to be a massive cinematic blockbuster. Sony was willing to experiment. Then another personal favorite, the PS4 era. To me, they've reached another large peak. Uncharted 4, God of War, Marvel's Spider-Man, the list goes on. They felt like events. They gave people a reason to buy PlayStation. This PS5 generation just does not feel the same. A lot of games are technically impressive, a lot of them are good, but the excitement just isn't the same. Is it just me, or does it feel like they're kind of playing it a bit safer? And when a company stops taking risks, the audience starts losing interest. Recently, reports showed that the PlayStation 5 sales have dropped around 36% compared to the previous year. Now, every console eventually slows down, that's normal. But I think the bigger question here is, why are people less excited? People don't buy consoles because of specs. They buy them because they want experiences. They want that one game that makes them think, oh, I need this console. The PS2 had that, and the PS4 had that. But when people talk about the PS5 generation, the conversation feels different. A lot of discussions has been about upgraded versions of existing games. Better graphics, faster loading, improved performance. Those things are nice, but they aren't the reason people fall in love with a console. A console's identity comes from the memories created on it. And right now, I think a lot of PlayStation fans are wondering, what are those unforgettable experiences? I don't think Sony's problem is that they are incapable of making great things. I think the problem is that they know they can succeed without taking many risks. And that's extremely dangerous, because once a company starts believing consumers will always support them, they stop earning that support. That's when you start seeing decisions that feel like they benefit the company more than the consumer. Higher prices, less choice, more focus on business decisions, less focus on what makes players excited. And that's why the declining PS5 sales don't surprise me. I don't think people suddenly hate PlayStation. I think people are starting to feel disconnected from it. And this brings me to the decision that has frustrated the most that I have not been shy of talking about on my channel. Sony has recently addressed the backlash surrounding physical games and the future of physical discs. And despite the criticism, they appear to be continuing towards a more digital future. Now, I do want to make one thing clear. I am not against digital games. I buy digital games. Digital is convenient. There are definitely benefits. But my issue is not digital games. My issue is losing the choice. For years, PlayStation gave players options. You could buy physical, you could buy digital. Everyone had a choice. So the question is, why are we moving toward taking one of those choices away? And Sony better have a really good reason. I'm talking about major technological advancement. Something that genuinely improves the player experience. Because if the reason is just it's more profitable, that's when I start to lose a lot of respect. Because what does removing physical media actually do for the consumer? How does my experience improve by that? How do I benefit? The answer is that it totally benefits the company. So why should the player be excited about that? I think I'm missing that. They need to let me know something here. Because once physical media disappears, the balance changes. Physical games create competition, stores compete with each other, people can buy used games, trade games, they can find cheaper options. But in all digital future, everything exists inside one company's ecosystem, and that gives companies more control. Even pricing becomes a concern. Right now, physical competition helps keep prices in check. But when one storefront controls everything, what happened? Could we see more situations where prices change whenever companies want? Could we see more personalized pricing? Different people paying different amounts for the same thing? I'm not saying that's guaranteed to happen, but removing consumer options makes those possibilities easier, and that's why people are worried. And now people are planning a PlayStation boycott in a few weeks. Will one boycott completely change Sony's direction? To be honest, I don't really think so. Sony is a massive company. One event probably won't immediately change everything, but I think the bigger story is not whether the boycott succeeds financially. The bigger story is that fans feel frustrated enough to organize one. That matters a lot. And these people don't want PlayStation to fail, just like me. They're people who actually love PlayStation. The loudest criticism often comes from people who cared the most. This is why I think Sony needs to be humbled a bit. Not destroyed or replaced, but just humbled. Competition is good. When companies have to fight for your attention, they have to innovate. They have to listen, to give people a reason to care. The PS2, in my opinion, wasn't successful because it was called PlayStation. It was successful because Sony created amazing experiences. The PS4 wasn't successful because fans automatically owed Sony their money. It was successful because they actually delivered incredible games. Loyalty is earned in every generation, not guaranteed forever. I don't think PlayStation is dying, I don't think Sony is going away anytime soon, but I do think they're headed towards a dangerous place. A place where fans stop feeling excited and start feeling more like customers. And once that happens, rebuilding that connections becomes much harder. Sony has created one of the greatest legacies in gaming. They gave us some of the most memorable games ever made, but they can't rely on the past forever, and it seems like that's what they're doing, especially with all these remakes. They have to create a future that people actually want to be a part of, because right now the biggest threat to PlayStation is not Xbox, it's pretty much Nintendo, and it's definitely PC. It's losing the passion of fans who made PlayStation what it is. I want them to just take risks again. The feeling that anything could happen on a PlayStation console, because that's what made people fall in love with PlayStation in the first place. And Sony needs to remember, a great brand isn't built by what you used to be. It's built by what you do next. But what do you guys think? Are you guys getting kind of sick of PlayStation? Do you want them to do new things? I'll always be a PlayStation fan at the end of the day. I just don't like the direction they're headed. But if you like this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I talk about most things in gaming. Thank you so much for watching. Pause for now, play forever. AK out.